The word hustle has several different meanings. The first definition is to force someone to move hurriedly or unceremoniously in a specified direction. Definition number 2 is to obtain something by forceful action or persuasion. Definition number 3 is to commit a fraudulent scheme or action in order to swindle and deceive someone through trickery or sham. On March 31st, 2019, rapper and entrepreneur Nipsey Hussle was apparently gunned down in front of his Marathon clothing store in Hyde Park, a reference to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Next tonight to the manhunt amid an outpouring of grief after the murder of a rising music star. Rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was Grammy nominated, he was a former gang member who had turned his life around and was set to meet with the LAPD just today. He wanted to help end the gang violence. ABC.
There's been much speculation from many people concerning a government conspiracy to assassinate Nipsey Hussle because of his involvement with Dr.Sebi's documentary, his STEM initiative, along with his movement to buy back the block or reinvest in the urban community from which he came from, and his efforts to stop gang violence. These may all be plausible reasons for his murder. However, we are not going to look at why he may have been killed. Instead, we are going to focus on the symbolism connected with his death and what this event is being used to represent. Murder by the numbers. His murder occurred on March 31st, 2019, or 3/31/19. When the numbers are reversed, we get 9/11, the number 13, and the number 33. We know that these numbers are important to occult practitioners of magic because they consistently show up embedded in orchestrated events. Someone sent me a screenshot of Nipsey Hussle's Instagram page, which showed that he had 3.1 million followers and he was following 2,019 people. These numbers reflect the date of his murder, March 31st, 2019. While we are on the subject, let me clarify something. I am not here to argue about whether this was a hoax or if Nipsey Hussle was actually killed. I am only saying that this was a pre-planned, orchestrated event, much like 9/11. We know that 2,996 people most certainly died on 9/11, and I have shown you previously how it was a pre-planned, orchestrated event as well. Remember, the BBC reported on Building 7's collapse before it actually happened. You can see the Salomon building, building number 7, still standing while the reporter claims it has already collapsed.
Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. As you can see behind me, the trade center appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash. And
presumably there were very few people in the Salomon building when it collapsed. I mean, there were, I suppose, fears of possible further collapses around the area.
That's what you would hope, because they don't really know where to turn. That's the very sad thing. I think there's going to be a lot of very, very traumatized people that has hit them very, very hard.
In like manner, others have shown how there were news articles reporting Nipsey's death that were produced a month before the actual event. I don't know this brother's name, but shout out to him for finding this info.
Google tools, custom range, pull up articles that was made, no, not March, February 1st to March 27th. So y'all notice that article is already made, but none of these articles went live until the 31st. Fox made an article on February 7th, but they didn't publish it until March 31st. And same February 7th, he dies outside his shop. Photos on February 10th.
Nipsey Hussle's real name is Ermias Ashkadam.
Well, I just found out what my name mean. It mean God will rise. And I found out through one of my homegirls. She just asked me, like, what does your name mean? And I couldn't tell her, you know. Not my rap name, my real name. Yeah. And my real name is Ermias. Okay. It's from East Africa, it's from Eritrea. And so I didn't really know what it meant. She Googled it, and she like, your name mean God will rise. And I thought that was dope, so.
The name Ermias means God will rise, and thus speaks of a resurrection of God in a sense. This is very interesting since Nipsey Hussle was killed at the age of 33, the same age Yahushua the Messiah was crucified and subsequently resurrected. Nipsey Hussle has been compared to a prophet through Yahushua's words as well. In reference to Nipsey Hussle's death, a number of people have ascribed the words of Messiah to illustrate his untimely demise. Being that Nipsey was ambushed and shot at his place of business in his hometown, they specifically paraphrase Luke 4:24, which declares, "And he said, Verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country." I submit to you that Nipsey's death is being used by dark forces to portray the rise of the false Messiah or Antichrist. Going back to the meaning of his first name, Ermias, which means God will rise. For pagan worshippers, this statement hides a reference to the rising sun.
It's better to love in Miami as we do. We on the check-in. Look at the sun. Look at God. Look at me and God. Look at me and God. Don't we look good together, people? Me and God, baby.
On April 21st, many so-called Christians will attend sunrise services to observe the pagan celebration of Easter, which is actually derived from the worship of Astarte, Ishtar, or Ashtoreth. The true holy days that we are commanded to observe during this time by the Most High are Passover, first fruits, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. See Leviticus 23, 4-14, Deuteronomy 16, 1-8, Numbers 9, 2, and 28, 16. Steph Curry said this about Nipsey Hussle when he was interviewed following his death.
I got to know him last year and had a great conversation about who he was as a person, what he stood for, what his message was, how he tried to inspire people, considering where he grew up and how he turned that into something extremely powerful.
Notice the backdrop when Steph Curry, who plays for the Golden State Warriors, speaks about Nipsey. The Warriors logo, although now consists of a picture of the Bay Bridge with the sun behind it, it should be noted that in 1969, which connects to the number 666, the team introduced the city logo with a visual of the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden State logo is actually a reference to the Golden Gate, as it is called in Christian literature, which is the only eastern gate of the Temple Mount and one of the only two that used to offer access into the city from that side. It has been walled up since medieval times. The Hebrew name of the Golden Gate is Gate of Mercy. Yahushua, riding on a donkey, passed through this gate on Palm Sunday in fulfillment of the Jewish prophecy concerning the Messiah. Some equate it with the beautiful gate mentioned in Acts 3. Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent rebuilt the gate together with the city walls, but walled it up in 1541, and since that time it has stayed that way. In Jewish tradition, this is the gate through which the Anointed One, the Messiah, for which they still wait upon, will enter Jerusalem. It is suggested that Suleiman the Magnificent sealed off the Golden Gate to prevent the Messiah from coming through the entrance. The Ottomans also built a cemetery in front of the gate to prevent the precursor to the Anointed One, Elijah, from passing through the gate as well. Now, back to Steph Curry's interview and speaking about Nipsey Hussle. Notice the word oracle is positioned behind Steph Curry's head. An oracle is a priest or priestess acting as a medium through whom advice or prophecy was sought from the gods in classical antiquity. Steph Curry is sitting in front of the Golden State Warriors logo, a representation of the rising sun in the Golden Gate or Gate of Mercy in Jerusalem's Temple Mount, to which the Messiah was prophesied to walk through, with the word oracle, which means a prophet or prophecy, speaking about Nipsey Hussle, who was killed at the age of 33, the same age of Yahushua, and whose real name is Ermias, which means God will rise, is meant to be a prophecy concerning the coming rise of the Antichrist, the rising sun. In previous videos, we have discussed how Barack Obama's logo depicts the rising sun. As it concerns the use of the Golden State Warriors logo, which depicts the Golden Gate of Jerusalem, in popular culture, it should be noted that Tom Hardy, who played Venom, a man possessed by a demonic spirit disguised as an alien in the movie Venom, was shown wearing a Golden State Warriors t-shirt. The words, "the city," actually are a reference to Jerusalem and the Golden Gate on the Temple Mount, to which Ashkenazi Jews await the return of their Messiah, who in fact will be the Antichrist. The movie Venom even opens with a shot of the famous Bay Bridge in the morning as Venom's girlfriend declares, "Morning sunshine." Nipsey's shooting occurred in California. The state of California is connected to the word caliphate, which means government under a caliph. A caliph is a spiritual leader of Islam who claims succession from Muhammad. The word stems from the Arabic khalifa, meaning successor. This points to the Imam Mahdi, who is the last and final Khalifa. We know him as the biblical Antichrist, who will be an end times political, military, and religious leader that will subdue the earth by a powerful army and establish a new world order. This shooting occurred in front of Nipsey Hussle's The Marathon clothing store. Interestingly enough, a marathon is a long-distance race which was instituted in commemoration of the fabled run of the Greek soldier Phidippides, a messenger from the Battle of Marathon to Athens, who reported the victory. Remember, Nipsey Hussle's album is called Victory Lap. The marathon was one of the original modern Olympic events. We know that Zeus, the god of thunder, was the ruler on Mount Olympus. It's also interesting that Nipsey's street name was Thundercat. Keep this fact in mind as we will come back to it in a moment. Suffice it to say, marathon means the race is not a short distance, but a long run, being played out over a large distance or great span of time. It could be said that life is a marathon, and even more so, the race or battle for the collective soul of humankind since life has existed on this earth has been a marathon. And, judging by events occurring in our world, the end is fast approaching. Through this event, Satan is telling you that at the end of this marathon of human existence on earth, he plans to take his final victory lap by accomplishing what he set out to do in the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verses 13 through 14, which declares, "For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." The cover artwork for Victory Lap also tells us a lot. The V represents the Roman numeral 5, which connects it with the satanic pentagram, which has 5 points. We know that the letter V has also been associated with Satan through the movie V for Vendetta. Remember, Guy Fawkes introduces himself by using the words from the Rolling Stones song, "Sympathy for the Devil."
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth.
The Rolling Stones singing about sympathy for the devil and V for Vendetta connects to Nipsey Hussle's V for Victory Lap and his affiliation with the Rollin' 60s gang. Nipsey's death was also connected to Satan and the number 666 in that he was 33 years old at the time of his death. 3 plus 3 equals 6. He was part of the Rollin' 60s Crip gang, and he was shot 6 times, which gives us the number 666. Russel Westbrook, who plays for the Oklahoma City Thunder, dedicated his game against the Lakers on Tuesday, in which he had a triple-double to Nipsey.
Zone. Bonga in the game, misses, he gets the rebound! Yeah.
The game was referred to as his 20-20-20 game. 20 plus 20 plus 20 equals 60 for Nipsey's set, the Rollin' 60s. Remember, Nipsey's street name was Thundercat. It should also be noted that the final score in that game was 119 to 103, which gives us the numbers 9-11, 3, 13, and 31, again connecting back to the date of Nipsey's death, 3/31/19. Westbrook was wearing the number 0 or O, and he plays for the Thunder. The name Baraq means lightning, which is always accompanied by thunder. Therefore, his jersey reads Baraq O for Barack Obama. Messiah described Satan falling from heaven as lightning from heaven in Hebrew as Barack Obama in Luke 10:18. Remember earlier, we discussed how the marathon was one of the original events in the Olympics and how Zeus, the god of thunder, was the ruler of Mount Olympus. You may recall, back in August 2008, Baraq accepted the Democratic nomination for president at Invesco Field, which formerly had the name Mile High Stadium. Ironically enough, the music being played during his entrance is from the movie The Devil Wears Prada. The stage was made to replicate the Pergamum altar of Zeus. Mile High Stadium connects back to Satan's plan to exalt himself above the heights of the clouds. This stadium is where the Denver Broncos mascot, the white horse named Thunder, stands above the stadium. This was done on purpose to depict Obama as the rider of the white horse, the Antichrist, found in Revelation 6, verses 1 and 2. Amazingly enough, Nipsey Hussle's murder hides another connection to Obama in plain sight. The name of the alleged shooter is Eric Holder.
Minutes ago, Eric Holder was taken from the Lakewood Sheriff's Station to downtown LA. 3 undercover cars with tinted windows and sirens blaring pulled out of the substation and sped off. It is now confirmed that the 29-year-old is in custody for murder, identified as Eric Holder.
Eric Holder was the first black U.S. Attorney General who served under Barack Obama. The alleged shooter was apprehended in the city of Bellflower, trying to check himself in to a mental hospital. It was also announced that he had previously been institutionalized in a mental hospital as well. The name Bellflower is made up of the words bell plus flower. Bel refers to Baal, the pagan god of the Canaanites, who is depicted holding a thunderbolt. To flower means to be at an optimum stage of development. The message here then is this: Baal, the false god, has reached an optimum stage of development. This signals that the rise of the Antichrist to his position on the world stage is imminent. In closing, it is obvious to me that there is clear intent by the forces who orchestrate these satanic ritual sacrifices that we continue to see play out on the evening news to put forth the narrative of a coming false savior, the rising sun, a demonically inspired figure who will deceive the entire world. There's a great illusion sitting just beyond the horizon, and once Lucifer's deceptive light begins to shine, the entire world will fall under his spell, the grand delusion. Matthew 24:24 tells us, "For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect." 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 9 through 12 tells us, "Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness." We are approaching the end of the marathon. However, only those who have submitted their lives to the Most High by accepting Yehoshua HaMashiach's blood sacrifice on the cross for redemption of their sins shall be able to take the victory lap. Amen. Shalom.